Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Smith, and I am the Vice President of Sales for NAVEX Global, covering the Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific, Australia, New Zealand territories. We're going to be speaking today about workplace whistleblowing. It's one of a suite of products that NAVEX represent. We've seen the risk and compliance industry grow in both prominence and scope over the past 20 years. What was once a tick box task for many organisations for legal and procurement purposes that just looked at labour and manufacturing standards were being met has now gone to board level reporting responsibilities in many organisations. And the ownership of greater risk that come along with it has now been passed very much into the hands of the company themselves. We are uniquely positioned at NAVEX Global to help organisations grow their risk and compliance program and address their major risk and compliance issues. A risk and compliance program that truly protects your organisation must have ownership across all functions and roles in the organisation, from the most senior executive to frontline employees. However, some roles have unique challenges and opportunities to contribute. We at NAVEX Global are uniquely positioned to help individuals in key departments and functions. The key part that we're going to talk about today is the whistleblowing hotline solution. So this is me. I have over 20 years senior leadership experience working for a number of blue chip technology-led organizations. And I own, as I say, the NAVEX Global International business. I'm very familiar with Middle East culture and protocols, having lived in the UAE for 4 years in the financial sector. I get very, very excited about what we do at NAVEX Global and the levels of support and guidance we give companies on a daily basis. So for today's agenda, we're going to look at why is whistleblowing a hot topic, what the benefits are of an effective whistleblowing program, what we see as best practice for workplace whistleblowing systems, and why we are the world's #1 whistleblowing solution. Now, what I will say is there is going to be lots of information shared in this presentation, and in order to help and assist with any questions that you have, it will be easier if you can hold on to those questions, and at the very end we have allowed time to answer any questions that you may have. So why is whistleblowing a hot topic? Whistleblowing is really now being driven in a number of different ways. We are seeing an extremely diverse changing landscape. Many rules and regulations are being established across multiple countries, multiple jurisdictions. Here we see 7 examples of just some of the changes that we are seeing on an ongoing basis, and not just changes in law and legislation, but changes to those laws and legislations on an ongoing basis. The reason things are being done to such a high velocity is because of the amount of issues and occurrences that are happening in the workplace on an ongoing basis. We can pick up the news today, a newspaper or the internet, and read any number of situations and circumstances where large, medium and small organizations have become victims of issues in the workplace around a multitude of different scenarios. We at NAVEX Global are responsible for working with over 15,000 global organizations across 5 key products that we see as relevant and key to a robust compliance program. And just as you see here, in various countries around significant fines being apportioned against organizations for failure to demonstrate they have a proper compliance program in place. This is backed up with some significant facts and figures that we produce on an ongoing basis that we can also make available to read through benchmarking reports. But as you can see, over the years, enforcement is on the rise. We are seeing not just legislation being brought into play, but we are seeing more and more prosecutions, more and more fines being levied against organizations for failure to comply. In the years 1977 to 2000, there were on average 10 enforcements per year by the DOJ or the SEC. Between 2001 and 2019, that had increased extensively to over 30 enforcements per year. And the fines, the average fine value, we are seeing increasing just as fast, from 5.4 million average fine in 2015 to $116 million in 2019. The cost to the business is much more than the fine itself. These include reputational damage. We have seen just in the UK recently, share prices have was adversely affected by an online retailer, Boohoo, where they were found to be collaborating or using manufacturing sites in the UK that were paying less than the national permitted wage. This resulted in a 1.5 billion decline of their share price in a matter of days. Every dollar, as you can see here, of share value loss can be attributed to reputational damage imposed by corruption fines. Not just that, but declining revenues at global telecoms giants after employees were convicted of bribery, and the subsequent resignation of the CEO and supervisory board, head of the board, was also prevalent. But failure to consider reputational damage of a bribery scandal significantly underestimates the cost to a company by at least 4 times. If we look at where bribery and corruption is occurring, you see here from a heat map of where we have actually highlighted what and where becomes significant countries of concern. 90% of bribery and corruption cases occurring in business are instigated via a third party. And we are now working with a number of organizations to bring together their third-party compliance program that helps mitigate those risks brought on by third parties. Those issues have been significantly accelerated during this COVID-19 pandemic. Organizations that maybe 6 or 7 months ago were seen as strategic, ethical businesses to do business with, their landscape has now changed as a result of the crippling financial effect that COVID has brought. However, organizations are failing to recognize that fast enough and put things in place that enable them to better assess the viability and suitability of the third parties that they're working with. And we are allowing and seeing more and more of our customers opening up the whistleblower channels to their third parties and re-educating their employees to be aware of issues arising from the poor behaviour or misconduct of a third party. This next graph is taken from our recent risk and compliance benchmarking report. We produce these twice a year. It shows that almost 100% of companies with well-developed risk and compliance program have a whistleblowing hotline in place. And this is supported by a robust case management and investigation process. Even in companies with less mature compliance programs, you can see that whistleblowing hotlines are a foundation of a wider program. What does this tell us? It tells us that if you're looking to build an effective compliance program, a whistleblowing system supported by a case management system is an absolute must. So what are the benefits of an effective whistleblowing program? Surprisingly enough, and contrary to some belief, more reports are better. The facts tell us, the data tells us that increased hotline reporting activity is correlated with fewer material lawsuits, less in total settlement amounts, a much higher return on company assets, and less negative news coverage. At NAVEX Global, we work across a very diverse industry sector across a multitude of different countries. We have represented companies and organisations at government level to demonstrate, following an issue, a scandal, that we are putting in place programs to mitigate these going forward. And as a result of NAVEX's ability to demonstrate the detail of the programs we put in place, charitable organisations have managed to retain their funding, and key organisations, commercial organisations, have retained a high degree of satisfaction and reduced their negative news coverage, but also have reduced significantly the fines that have been imposed upon them. Recently, due to the profile that NAVEX has as the leading provider of risk, ethics and compliance solutions, we were approached independently by a university in the US to try and establish some facts behind the data. And I'd like to share a piece of research that came out of the George Washington University, conducted by Professor Carl Welch. This utilized fully NAVEX Global's hotline and incident management data, all anonymized, and proved something compliance officers have believed since the beginning of hotlines. Hearing from your employees means good things for your business. We know that through Professor Welch's research that organizations that use their hotline see three key things: greater profitability as measured by reported return on assets, fewer material lawsuits filed against an organization, lower litigations and settlement costs, and fewer regulatory agency reports filed against the organization. Therefore, if you have a full picture of your employees' concerns, whether those are reported through the hotline or a manager or email, you will have a better indication of where your organization stands. The organisation benefits are endless, but we've highlighted a few here as the main ones. Improved compliance with law and regulation, very much legal defensibility, to develop a more open, ethical workplace culture. You develop an engaged workforce. They feel that their voice actually matters. You gain early visibility of emerging risks. You give reassurance to your shareholders and investors and board. And as importantly, all delivering a healthier bottom line. This is all proven by the graph on the right-hand side. The performance of listed 2020 businesses compared to large cap index from January 2015 to 2020, you can see a considerable rise, in the value. So what is the best practice for workplace whistleblowing systems? NAVEX Global enjoys a very prominent position and a respected position as market leader. We lead both in innovation, size, geographical reach, and diversity of product. 15,000 global customers, handling in excess of 1.4 million reports annually. Considerably larger than our nearest competitor. We spend each year more dollars on product development than our nearest rival generates in revenues. Our product roadmap is delivered based on what customers need and tell us what they want. We do not sit there thinking about how can we best improve without speaking to our customers. But what does a best practice tell us? A good whistleblowing system must have multiple accessible reporting channels. We very much advocate that the best organizations are those that can and do deliver on an open door policy. Having the confidence to report directly to a manager demonstrates a very healthy ethical compliance culture. But also being able to report through telephone, through a intuitive web, and also mobile access are the 4 key areas we look to promote through a whistleblowing hotline solution. The tool must be intuitive and the interface engaging. It must not be a place to be feared. It must be a place to gain both information and feel comfortable in reporting. Often, to make a report can be seen by a reporter to be a career-defining move. So giving them the confidence to be able to do that in the knowledge that their report is going to be taken seriously and handled professionally and with due diligence is very important. It must be secure and confidential. It must allow them to have the choice of either reporting directly, giving their name, or, as importantly, anonymously. It must be meaningful, and you must be able to extract on-demand data that tells you as a business what the risks are and can inform the decision-making in your organization of what you need to be doing to prevent or act upon what's being reported. But a whistleblowing solution is of no individual value unless it's underpinned by additional products that help put a compliance program together. A robust training program, a policy management tool, and a wider program that incorporates third-party risk. To provide a policy for an employee to tell them what the rules are for you as a business is imperative. to then train them what to look out for and what to do in the event of seeing something that isn't correct in the workplace, ensures that they understand what the rules and regulations are and what they then do if something is wrong. Giving them a vehicle to report on that is where the whistleblower hotline comes into its own. And it definitely, we advocate very much, it must have buy-in from the executive leadership and management. We encourage CEOs, business leaders to comment on the opening page of a customer's whistleblowing landing page for their website. A message from the top advocating the importance of an ethical, transparent business culture really helps to cement the message to your employees and desired audience. So what does a healthy program look like? And how does your report volume compare to others? So how many reports should you expect to receive? This really has been an impossible question to answer, as every organisation results will differ depending on their location, industry, the cultural factors, the workplace environment, their size, their maturity of their compliance program, and the list goes on. But here are some statistics taken from our latest global hotline benchmark report. This takes into account data from around 1.4 million reports received globally, and they are split around 80% came from North America organizations, 9% from Asia and Asia Pacific regions, and around 5% from Europe. The US market is a much more mature market when it comes to ethics and compliance solutions. They are used to and comfortable with programs and solutions that encourages people to speak up. Outside of the US, the international territories, EMEA, APAC, Australia, New Zealand, we are catching up, but we are catching up fast. But there is still some apprehension and there is still some immaturity in organizations to take up the challenge of putting a program together. You can see that based on our data, our customers receive between 0.3 and 10 reports per 100 employees, with an average figure of around 1.4 reports per 100 employees. To illustrate my point around varying results depending on organization profile, our largest group of customers, 90% of our database, received 5 or more reports per 100 employees in 2019. This is exceptionally encouraging news. As we learned from the George Washington University study, evidence on the use of efficiency of internal whistleblowing systems, there is a strong correlation between increased reporting volumes and positive business outcomes. It's this group of organizations that are most likely experiencing the positive outcomes of those correlations. This next slide shows a breakdown of the types of issues we received reports about during 2019. You can see that HR-related reports represent the majority of reports year on year. These reports often relate to relations or misconduct, e.g. discrimination, harassment, retaliation, compensation, or general HR issues are all classified as other. These types of reports can be important indicators of potential cultural issues. We encourage through a customer's web landing page to cater across the board for all these different subject matter types. What really is interesting here, though, for this audience is the volume of reports that relate to business integrity. These include reports that show how organisations interact with third parties, legislation patients, or customers. For example, bribery, falsification of documents, fraud, conflict of interest, vendor or customer issues. You can see that employees are ready and willing to share information about these issues with their employer. And therefore, they need a mechanism like a whistleblowing hotline to do that. These are the types of issues that can result in fines and enforcement actions. There are also other issues. Environment, health and safety are reports that involve an element of safety, typically pertaining to employees' environmental regulations or workplace health. Misuse, misappropriation of corporate assets are reports that specify company assets or time is being wasted or used in a manner other than what is expected. For example, employee theft, time clock abuse, etc. So these are all subject matters, topics that we encourage to be used through the whistleblowing hotline. The substantiation rates, over the last 7 years, we've seen the average substantiation rate, that is the proportion of reports that were proven to be correct or at least in part factual, fluctuate between 36 and 44%. In 2019, it was calculated at 43%. Overall, these findings show just how valuable the content of whistleblowing reports can be, given that almost 1 in 2 have a proven factual basis. A key concern for most organisations that implement a whistleblowing solution for the first time is malicious or unfounded reports. This shows that that is not an issue that needs to be overly concerned about. This next slide shows substantiation reports by category. This report simply highlights the same measure applied to different categories of reporting, with substantiation rates for each category tracking broadly with the overall 1 in 2 substantiation rate that I mentioned earlier. There is also issues. We get questions often about anonymity rates, and does allowing a reporter to report anonymously increase the potential for fictitious reporting. The larger graphic, the top one on this slide, shows the proportion of reports that are submitted anonymously. Many people prefer to report anonymously for many reasons, most often through a fear of retaliation, although the rates have gradually declined over the past 10 years to below 60%. But it does show that a whistleblowing hotline solution should accommodate these concerns and, where legally possible, include anonymous reporting options. The reason I say where legally possible, in certain countries, on certain report topics, it is illegal to report anonymously. NAVEX Global provides solutions that allow you to not have to worry about what you can and can't do in a specific jurisdiction. Our intuitive solution allows you to be confident that what you do in each country abides by that local law regulation. Some organisations are concerned that anonymous reporting opens the gate to malicious or false reports, as I said, but this concern is largely unfounded. As you can see from the second graph, anonymous reports are almost as likely to be substantiated as reports provided by people who disclose their identity. This demonstrates that anonymous reports can still hold enormous value for organisations. Here we can see the value of providing a report system that comprises and tracks multiple report channels. In 2019, around 1/3 of people submitted their reports over the telephone, with a further 25% preferring to report via the web. This is more recognised in the US. In the US, they are comfortable to report by telephone. Outside of the US, the facts and the numbers are slightly different. The majority of reports continue to be received by other methods, most notably walk-up, which we class as open door policy, or in-person reports. This demonstrates how important it is not only to provide multiple reporting options, but to also use a system that allows you to record reports from all sources, no matter how they are received. Our incident management tool ensures no matter how that report comes in, everything is captured on one central repository. Report volumes increase if you increase the number of channels. As you can see here, the point really is brought to life by this statistic. This shows that you can expect to receive most than twice as many reports when you track reports from all sources. As we highlighted earlier, more reports are a good thing. So ensuring you have a strategy to capture as many reports as possible makes good business sense. As I said earlier, senior leadership and ownership is very key. The role of a leadership in promoting and leading an ethics and compliance speak-up culture is very important. We encourage from the very top to drive that transparency in your organization. You must have a program that gives you oversight and engagement. The importance of a program that also educates you as to what is happening in your business is very important. And the analytics that are available through our platform are industry leading and can be tuned and refined to what suits you as a business. Reporting to the board on a regular basis to highlight trends, changes, is very important if you are to mitigate risk and act on what you are seeing. And transparency does create trust. But it's key to make sure that everybody in the organization sees it as their compliance program. We strongly believe culture is about what you do, not what you say. It's easy to speak up. It's important that you as a business have a channel that encourages people to report, that they do it early, they feel safe, and it's easy to do. It's important that you develop multiple channels to report, plus you always give the option for anonymous reporting. Your managers, your leaders, your supervisors must be ready, must be supportive, and must be trusted. You must ensure that you quickly and fairly resolve all reports. You communicate on a regular basis with the reporter, and you act accordingly to the severity of the situation, but never prejudge the person or the issue. You must allow for things to be escalated within your organization, and as importantly, prevent retaliation. The key thing to ensuring employees feel good, safe, and secure about any hotline that's implemented is we believe in awareness and promotion. Be proud to launch a whistleblower solution. Don't do it covertly. Don't do it just to tick a box because legislation or law tells you to do so. Do it because you want that culture. That same feeling will resonate with your employees. So we spend a lot of time with organizations making sure their awareness material and their promotion material fits what needs to happen. Train your people and train everybody. Train your board to understand what it means to your organization to have this program. Train your staff to be comfortable and to know what to do and why to do it. And train your management to manage these situations in the correct and proper way. This is not intuitive for many people. It has to be trained. So be prepared to talk about why it's important not to adopt a retaliation culture, how to prevent it, report issues and retaliation, resolve these quickly, effectively, satisfactorily. Obligations, rights, and protections are critical for a healthy culture within a business. It protects the personal and the business risks and ensures accountability. So what are the key takeaways? Having a robust and scalable ethics and compliance program with a strong speak-up culture. Create internal and external transparency to reduce the risk to your business. Ensure your program has detailed analytics and can intuitively report to identify issues, trends, and risks. And where possible, consolidate the software, centralizing all of your ethics and compliance data. So NAVEX Global, you've heard me say more than one occasion, innovative, technology leading, globe's largest. We have the world's #1 whistleblowing solution. We have a customer community of 15,000 and growing customers. We are handling 1.4 million reports in 2019. We deploy a number of call centers that operate 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We support over 200 languages. We allow customers to report through open door policy, but that locks into an incident management solution, through telephony and skilled, trained, dedicated call handlers that have to pass significant security protocols in order to fulfill the role as a NAVEX Global call operator. They work in sterile environments where they are not allowed to have a mobile phone. There is no pen and paper, just a keypad and a screen. And we have 93% customer retention. And let me just expand on that point. 93%, for some people may say that means we have 7% churn. 93%, the reason we have that is because we see throughout a year business consolidation. We see, unfortunately, organizations that no longer trade. Customers that are trading stay with us. So the reason we report at 93% is a transparent figure to take into consideration business consolidation, businesses that are sold and acquired by other businesses, or unfortunately, in some cases, businesses that no longer trade. But as you can see, for the Middle East, UAE, we are a very, very active business. So for us, NAVEX has been born from the whistleblowing solution. It is the foundation of your compliance program, and it's what we've grown up with. It's what's made us where we are today. But we are so much more than a hotline provider. Over the years, we've acquired businesses and we've developed products in other areas of the risk, ethics, and compliance arena. I've spoken before about policy management and distribution. We've recently launched a disclosure management solution. We boast a significant library of online compliance training programs, over 120 different subject matters in over 200 languages. And we deliver this through one central platform. Customers told us they would prefer to use an integrated platform such as the GRC suite in order to access all these products. That requirement is even higher in the small and medium-sized companies. They want a one-stop, trusted route to solutions that help them manage their ethics and compliance program. We developed and launched in Q2 of this year NAVEX One, which is our online compliance platform, where all products are accessed in one centralized program. So what are the benefits of our one platform? It gives your organization a centralized admin access, a single user profile and login across all applications, whether that be policy management, whether that be online training, whistleblower hotline, or third-party risk assessment. It very much improves the employee experience. We're able to deliver compliance content with a consistent, intuitive interface. It gives you simplified use across all applications. You don't have to log out of one to log into another. You can easily navigate through all the compliance programs and tasks that you need to allow access to. And we've improved feature functionality. We now have full mobile intake availability. So it's as if on your smartphone you are looking at a computer screen. So we've talked briefly about the routes to report, but as a business, what do you do when you get a report? How is it managed? How is it distributed within your organization? How do you learn from what is reported? So as I said earlier, our contact centres operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They are communications specialists speaking over 200 languages, and we optimize the number of routes that you can report through. The report data is then collected and analyzed in one system. It's the single source of truth. So we're the largest provider of hotline and incident management solutions. We were the first to launch these hotline services over 33 years ago, well before federal sentencing guidelines and Sarbanes-Oxley were implemented, because we know these to be a best business practice and not just legislative requirement for publicly traded organizations. We are available anytime, anywhere, from anywhere. 40 million employees from around the world are supported by NAVEX Global Hotline Solutions. We process hundreds of thousands of whistleblower reports of allegedly misconduct every year with 80% actionability. We own and operate all 3 of our domestically based contact centres that support up to 200 plus languages, as I said earlier. We provide various intake mechanisms to create many paths of least resistance. That intake is integrated with an on-demand incident management solution that also offers valuable reporting and analytics. We have the largest, most responsive and most capable solution in the world. The Ethics Point Incident Management Solution, as you can see, takes reports across the 5 different avenues. It manages all cases. It distributes as you as an organization, as a business, want these distributed. The smart intelligence behind the solutions we develop and deploy ensures that if an individual that you have chosen to be an administrator of your solution is actually implicated, the system will recognize this and will ensure that that particular case where they may have been implicated, they are bypassed and it goes to the next level of management. Everything that goes into your incident management program can develop and can produce robust analytics. It will show you trends, it will show you patterns, it will protect your business, your reputation, and your bottom line. That's the end of any slides I wish I had to offer. I've put my email address on this last slide if there are any questions that people would like to email me. But if there are any questions now, I am happy to answer as best I can and give you any additional insight that you may feel I may have missed or you would like to know more on.
Mr. Steve, There is a question in the Q&A.
I see them now.
Yes.
Okay, I'll let me take these as I've got them here. How to protect whistleblower becoming victims. Again, I think that's very much the responsibility of the company. It's a regular issue in organisations that they see it as a protection of their business by trying to either expose or, worst case than that, vilify someone who reports on an issue. It really is down to the business themselves to make sure that that doesn't happen. I want to find out why it is most organisations refuses to reward their employees who report fraud or bribery cases with cash rewards. Again, Mohammed, that's very much down to the culture that the company themselves want to do. There are, if you look in the US, for example, there are substantial rewards given out to whistleblowers who report in circumstances around significant bribery corruption situations, but they tend to be more government issued rewards as opposed to individual business rewards. I think in most organisations, I'm not sure it's a case of refusing. I think it's not anything that they want to see as an incentive. So that's why I think you will see most organisations. Some do, however, but I think that's very much down to the individual organisation and how diligently and how robustly they want to roll out their program. Another question from Mohammed is, what about a situation where the CEO himself is one of the involved in illegal bribery activities and everyone seems to be afraid to report the matter? That's unfortunately, Mohammed, that's a relatively regular occurrence. We've seen with some significant high-profile organisations, the CEO at the centre of the bribery and corruption scenario. The good thing about the NAVEX solution, and I mentioned this earlier, we have some very intuitive software and human intervention that if someone that is ordinarily on the list of permitted observers of a report is implicated, then when we do the implementation program, we investigate with a company how you would like your reports to be directed, who gets to see them, who is a super user, who is an administrator. If in the situation where someone of prominence is party or included on the report, we also ask for effectively for a secondary route to lodge those reports. And so if I, as a CEO of an organization, were implicated and I was ultimately had visibility of all cases, the system and the call handler would know, because my name is there, then I must be shielded from seeing that report and it gets directed to someone else in your organization. But we work that all out with a business when we do the planning and preparation of implementation of a hotline.
There is Uthman Al-Ghamdi will ask you a live question now.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Uthman. Mr. Uthman?
I have no question.
Please.
maybe I could throw a question out and see of the audience we have today, how much of this information is new information for you, and who is in the process at this moment in the planning of implementing a whistleblower hotline? With some other just into the private equity business that bought us recognize for their remaining portfolio organizations, the value of an organization increases exponentially when they have a robust compliance program in place. So of the 50 or so other portfolio companies that our private equity firm holds, all 50 now have a comprehensive ethics and compliance program, and their value as a business has increased significantly. Happy to share, Tarek. I'm sure my colleague Sahal has passed this across. More than happy to share this presentation. Are there any other questions on hotline or policy management or third-party due diligence, third-party risk management, or online training whilst I'm here? Okay. Oh, Hassan, in my opinion, which is better, managing whistleblowing, internal or external? Both. External access, i.e., giving access to your third parties, is a relatively new thing, but it's something that is gathering great pace. We forget that the third parties are an extension of us as a business and can provide or can be as damaging to us as an organization as an employee's actions can be. So we are now encouraging organizations to open up their channels to their third parties and allow them to report on selected issue types. Not every company is responsible for the actions of their third parties across the board, but they can ensure things like bribery, corruption, etc., is covered. So it's an equal balance now. Confidentiality is assured because we have our software program ensures that the individual. So if I wish to make a report anonymously, when I go into the system, either if I want to do it by phone, if I want to do it over the web, when I go through and answer the questions that are pre-set questions that we organise with you as an organisation to decide what those questions should be. We provide you with best practice, but as a reporter, when they go through, they can decide before they start if they want to report anonymously or non-anonymously. If I decide to report anonymously, then clearly where there is no email address or anything that I'm asked to provide. But what I do get is I provide a password, and I get a security key allocated to me as the reporter, so that when I log back into the system, I use my password and that security key in order to get access to that specific report. The level of complexity that we deploy over the security protocols of our solution exceeds those of even the strictest financial institution. We have our data servers located in Frankfurt, Germany. Frankfurt have the strictest of data privacy laws and regulations, and that's why we chose Germany as the place to house our data center. The other thing is the only part, Hossein, that's outsourced is when a company decides to maybe outsource their investigation. And even then, our system supports you where you can remove anything on a report that you decide to outsource to a third party to investigate that may incriminate the reporter or the implicated party. So again, security and anonymity remains paramount on what we do. Does the solution provide information about vendor or customer for the registered client? We provide information about the vendor or customer through our third-party due diligence product. We have a product that we call Risk Rate that ensures that you can assess the viability of your third parties, vendors, customers based on a list of different criteria. It enables you to do a risk-based score based on your risk appetite and based on their value to you as a business. And what I mean by that is if their contribution to your business is relatively low in dollars, let's say, then your score against them or your risk factors are going to be slightly less. But if they are a major contributor to your business, then you want to make sure they are who they are and they do what they should be doing. So the risk score is much greater. And it can all be fed into the hotline also.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you, Mr. Steve, for this presentation. And we'll ask the audience, there is a meeting evaluation, so if you guys can evaluate in this.
Of course, we have one more question just come in.
Yeah.
The answer to that question, are you allowed to submit any case to the court Tarek, yeah, absolutely. Again, depending on the country jurisdiction, but the reason we do what we do is because everything that's produced and can be delivered through the solution is court admissible. So it is and has been and continues to be used as proof in court proceedings. I think that's it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Steve, for this presentation. That's
Absolute
all.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
If there are any questions or any further information that people require, please do not hesitate to use my email, contact me directly, and I will ensure that one of my sales directors responds, or I will respond directly. I will just leave you with the last thought. For us, the Middle East is a very thriving territory for us. We're seeing more and more requirements and requests coming from the region in regards to solutions that help organizations organize their compliance program effectively. It's becoming a very must-have element to any organization that wishes to collaborate in an Eastern or Western environment. So if we can help in any way, shape or form, if you do want any more information, please do not hesitate to reach out. We have a number of customers in Saudi and neighboring countries, and that continues to grow at a very fast rate. So we're the number one of choice for this region, and we'd be happy to continue with that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. I hope you found it of use and informative. And hopefully we look forward to speaking to you again soon. So thank you.